Three, two, one. And here we are. We're live again on the XXL podcast. It's just gone 11 p.m. with myself, Drew. I keep doing that. Myself, Drew.
You do keep doing that.
Drew. Welcome to the XXL podcast. This is Coffee with a Stranger number 25. We're going to welcome in Christine Burke, I think is her name, from Scottsdale, Arizona. And amazing story. So we don't know anything about her other than maybe a couple of highlights. So let's welcome her in. Hopefully she's still there. She's been waiting a few minutes. Here she is.
Hello. Hello.
Hey, Christine. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast. My name's Josh, obviously, as you can tell. And this is Drew, my kind of co-partner.
I'm Drew.
Nice.
So,
I'm co-host.
Yeah. So you're Scottsdale, Arizona, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Amazing. And what? This is a typical British thing that we ask. What's the weather like?
Really, really hot. So if you hear anything, it's the air conditioner, which seems to continually be blowing. Yesterday, I think, was 109. So,
wow.
Oh yeah,
but it's a dry heat, as we say. Yeah. It's like,
amazing.
As long as there's no humidity.
Yeah. You like the heat, or is it? Well, I guess if you live there, then it's not massive.
Well, it's better than cold.
Better than England.
I mean, there's trade-offs. I'm originally from Florida.
Okay.
So there were bugs and humidity and stuff. And so here it very seldom rains, but it can get hot. It can get hot. So you just grin and bear it. I mean, most of the time you spend inside and you go out after dark. But
Yeah. Lovely. Well, look, thank you for coming on.
Perfect.
I obviously missed you on Matchmakers. Now that sounds like it's a dating place, but it's not. It's a podcast.
Right.
It's
podcasting.
What are you telling me? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Literally, it's interesting. I saw your profile, and we've been doing loads of things all around the world and things like that, and it's been really interesting. And then suddenly I saw you're obviously a former police officer. Do you call it a police officer? Is that what the term is over there?
Yes, the nice term.
Oh, okay.
Recently, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you're now
or a cop, which is what came from constable on patrol, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I knew that.
I guess we relate pretty much the same to this. Yeah, and I saw
There's a few other names, but we won't go into them.
Yeah, we'll brush over them.
I've heard enough of that. Please don't. Yeah.
No, not now.
And then you changed, or I guess progressed, and then went into just lost my mind now. Private Investigation.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
So I've had my agency almost 12 years.
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So was it weird coming out of the police, or coming out of the force, and then almost did you have like an entrepreneurial side to you before that, or did you start at the same time? Like how did that come about?
Well, what happened and actually becoming a cop was not like, I never, children say I'm going to grow up and be a fireman or whatever. I really never had a plan. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in school. And I just happened into a job that put me in with the police. And then I really enjoyed it. And I was a sergeant before I left the police department, which to me was pretty boring. And I wasn't really getting to have any fun. And so I left. I also got engaged.
What would you class as fun?
Well, seeing people driving fast, I'm type A. So going to calls, helping people instead of being a supervisor and reading a whole bunch of paperwork and,
sure.
Checking up on people, supervision. It just, I wasn't able to do the job so much. I was being more of a supervisor, which it just wasn't fun to me. Yeah, I like the action.
Yeah. And did you eventually get to go into that?
Into
more of that, the action side of it.
Not as a supervisor. So once you move up, so I started as a patrol officer, and then I was a major case detective, which was awesome. And then I became a supervisor, and like I said, it wasn't fun. So I quit, and I actually went into the corporate world for a while, but I just wasn't satisfied. I wasn't able to use my skills, and I wasn't able to help people. And that's when I decided to open my investigation agency, because I really liked being a detective, because you kind of can do anything. As a patrol officer, you're mostly in uniform, you're responding to calls, but as a detective, you're following it up, you're developing theories, you're doing a lot, you have a lot more freedom, so to speak, and a more variety. Yeah. So it was good. I was kind of like right back doing what I was doing. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. And
was it tough?
Yeah.
Was it tough going into, I'm assuming, quite a male-dominated industry?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was actually the first female sergeant in my department.
Wow. Incredible.
And being that short blonde cop, it was, I guess I didn't realize at the time what I was doing. I just kind of did what I did, and I took classes and I sought opportunities, and I just didn't realize it was different. But yeah, I look back, and I think even now I still think it's tough as an investigator, because and Scottsdale, where I live, has a connotation, and they call it Snotsdale, right? So they're like, who's this blonde chick that obviously doesn't know what she's talking about, and she's going to do investigation, right? So it's kind of the same thing, but I'm just used to. I consider myself, in doing my work, like a guy. There never to me was a difference between men and women. I was just a cop, and so I just do my job. I'm looking out, right? I don't see anything looking away.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It sounds like when you talk about it, it sounds like, look, you're there to do the job, and you kind of don't really think, and maybe colleagues don't really think either, but then from an outside public's perspective, they're like, hang on a minute. Oh, hang on, did we hit something there?
Well, I mean, I've experienced the stuff, being accused, like in the film industry, right? Actresses, the casting couch. Sure. I was accused of that. And I'm very proud of what I accomplished. I accomplished without dating anybody, without any favors. I earned it through hard work. But any cliche that you can probably think of,
being suspected.
I probably heard it. Yeah. So, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know who you know yourself best, and you know what you've done to get where you are. So absolutely, 100%. This is obviously a super fitting topic with currently obviously what's going on. I would, we could say going on in America, but actually we've got it here in the UK. I think it's
crazy.
It's a come like a global movement, which look. There's a lot of things, negative, positives, and stuff like that. How's it been out where you are in Scottsdale?
Well, we had a lot of looting here. They went after the high-end stores, and I'm not sure if they're protesting tonight down in Phoenix, so I live in what we'd call like a metro area, like I assume around London. You've got the suburbs.
Sure. Yeah.
And so pretty much Phoenix is the big area, and last night they were on their 13th or 14th night of protests. Wow. And things being destroyed, and it impacts me in a couple of different ways. So you asked me how is that going for me? It's very sad because it affects me personally, because I feel I'm being lumped in with, I tend to call it copism or professionism, that the actions of a person is being blanketed across,
painted across everyone.
Right. It's not a race, but it's a profession. So it's been very distressing. Just the whole thing. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm actually afraid. I can say that as a citizen. I'm afraid. And then everything that's going on, I've seen it going on across the world. And so obviously people are really upset, and I don't know. It's very distressing.
When you when you're on the force, things like that, did you feel that there was any problem or anything like kind of back when you're on it? Was there a stigma around it already, or did you think sometimes like this isn't normally what I'd expect or anything like that? Do you think there is a problem?
Now, are you talking about race specifically, or are you talking about the public's perception of police?
To be honest, both of them.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think there's a very very different for each. To be fair, for what I would see for the UK, and maybe I think it's actually more to do with potentially like parenting, is when it's funny when you grow up, your parents, if you're naughty, they say, look, the police will come and get you. And it's like a fear is like kind of put into kids these days. And then as it goes through it, and I think there's kind of a stigma now where people have been, or like the teenagers and stuff like that, they're like, oh, like literally we do not give a shit about it. And it's kind of that rebellious. And then I think that's kind of what's happened in the UK with some of the riots and things like that. It's become something to run on with. So like, oh, there's a problem over here. Yeah, I'll jump on that bandwagon and we fight our own cause over here, where, like you said, it's not happened here. Yes, it might be a problem here as well. And of course, I'm sure it is around the world as well, but it seems like everyone's kind of just jumping on the riot kind of problem as well as the racism.
Wow. Well, so a couple of things I want to touch on. Hopefully I can remember, but
sure.
It's a shame to hear that your parents, and I think we're of different generations.
Sure.
But it's a shame to hear that your parents kind of threatened you with that, because we grew up, I didn't have anybody that was a police officer in my family, but I was taught that the police were there to help you.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it was a good thing, right? Like we grew up, like you don't call 911 for no reason, right? But, and I'll give you an instance. So a couple years ago here, my mom has dementia. She's in a facility, and one of the caregivers told me that they threatened my mom with the police if she didn't take a shower. And that was just really crazy to me.
Yeah,
I'm like, please don't say that to her, especially with my background. But something else too that you said about everybody, maybe you haven't experienced it, but the people joining in the protest, I think maybe with the COVID and just, I don't know, there seems a lot of stress and everything that people are jumping on something, because I feel lately with COVID and everything, we've lost a sense of control. And so people are joining in to try to feel like they can do something, to get some sense of accomplishment. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I think I would agree with that. We've all been cooped up for here in the UK.
Too long.
Yeah, 12 weeks almost now, and it's still like a lockdown kind of phase. Obviously seeing America kind of open up and stuff like that, there's many of us that are kind of like clawing and chomping at the bit to be able to go and do things like that. But yeah, like you said, I think people need that, something to go and fight for or go and do and keep themselves kind of focused on.
Yeah. Well, I did want to comment on something else that you said.
Sure.
I'm thinking back to what I want to say, the copism, and going back to the beginning of my career. There was recently a video I saw on YouTube of some officers in Costa Mesa, California, and this gentleman was just going off on them. And I routinely, on a daily basis, not to say what's going on now is right or wrong or whatever, but I kind of liken to it, like, I don't understand what the Black perspective or any other race is, because I only know my own experience. But the closest I can get to it is in the police department. I was routinely called, names, and, I pay your tax dollars, and don't you have something better to do, and go eat a donut, and F this and all this stuff. I mean, that was routine on a daily basis. And going out to work, and even in my private life, wondering if today was the day you were going to take a bullet.
Yeah.
That's my daily experience. So I'm not going to say it's the same, but yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's not. I was saying it's not the same for. I thought you meant same as in same in the UK, but obviously we don't have guns over here, so we don't have to. They don't obviously run into that issue.
But like you said,
I can imagine
calling the names and
waking up every day and having that.
Yeah, and not to mention just the violence. I mean, we were told as an officer that people can't breach your peace, and so you would get assaulted, spit on, and no prosecution, right? That's just part of the job. And then the biological hazards today too. And I guess I don't want to say that's right or wrong, but it just became a normal.
Wow.
It just became a normal.
Yeah. No, it's a very good point. Yeah.
Right. But I think respect goes both ways.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. That's what
so it's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah.
We've done some podcasts, and it's obviously a hot topic on a lot of people's lips and things like that now. And a lot of things we were saying is, look, we can understand both points of view, and this is something that there's no right or wrong. There's both sides to this. So and people will fight kind of one side and the other, which is fine. Like, everyone has their opinions. But just very interesting to obviously hear someone from your side's perspective, just kind of going through the force and understanding as a woman as well. I think it is fantastic hearing that kind of side to it. Do you think, like, with obviously, let's just talk about kind of potentially the badder, or a couple of people who have obviously been on the bad side of the cops and stuff like that. Is there like a lot of training behind, like, because a lot of people have been talking about, for in the UK, you have a process where you can go in fairly young into the police force. You kind of get some training going in, and then you're kind of out, and you're out doing the patrols and everything like that. Where comparing it to like the army, they go through, or the Navy or something like that, there's military drills, and they almost try and kind of break you or see where your limits are. And I feel like the police, our side, for sure, doesn't have that. So it's quite interesting to kind of, people will talk about, is there training or is there kind of, I don't really know what the right word to say, but like almost like a psychotherapist that you can see to just make sure that, everything is good and you can take the pressures of it, or even when you're on the job, that they're regular kind of talks that you...
Isn't there a psyche assessment?
Yeah, that kind of, like, you can release a little bit and talk about some of the things that you have, because I can imagine it's an incredible stressful situation, incredibly stressful, and coming home and trying to switch off, I can imagine, is really tough.
Well, a couple things that you talked about. So I want to touch on training, the psych eval, but one thing that you just talked about at the end was, and there's been some pushback here about Facebook posts, the way that the officers deal with the stress or the horrifying aspects of a situation is we will commonly joke about it. Okay. And sometimes people think that's inappropriate, but it realized doing the job, like, we can't all just stand there and break down and cry and say, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Yeah. Like when a child dies or some gory incident, right? So we kind of have to, laugh it off, like, oh, haha, and so sometimes people make jokes or things like that, and that can be perceived in the wrong way. Yeah. Going to psych evaluations, most departments should do a psych evaluation. I know I went through that. I believe that there's been some talk about budget constraints and things like that. I know here in Arizona, because I come from Florida, I was very surprised that they only go back and do a history up to 7 years. So if you get an older officer, there could be potential there. And then speaking of training, you do get quite an intensive training in the beginning. Boy, I remember for me, I'll tell you, in high school, because I joined not too far after high school, my name was Dainty Christie. And so going through the academy, they broke me down, and that's kind of halfway through when I stood up and I was like, okay, I got this, right? Because I wasn't sure, can I drive this car and carry the shotgun and deal with all these? I'm 5'2", you're probably 5 foot now, but can I deal with all these people? And so I've got two parts of that, and something that I really spoke about lately. You do get a basic training in the academy, and you do get some sorts of, again, depending on budget, mandatory retraining during your career. But I don't know how often the different departments go into use of force and things of that nature.
Sure.
And as technology or medical information comes out, I don't know how well that is conveyed to defensive tactics and things like that. And another thing, I was talking to another former officer, and we were talking about, I think, as you go through, and not that it's right or wrong, but as you go through your career and you deal with these insults and again, like you said, it's perception, right? So you start out as this innocent officer, and you know you have to arrest bad guys and gals, but you think that everybody is cool. And then as you, I don't know how many days out of 365 days of the year, I don't know what, 300 days of the year, you're going to work every day, and you're seeing the bad element, and people are calling you names, and they're fighting and spitting, and you just see an element of society that regular people don't. Yeah. And so I think you may, and I don't know if I did or anybody else did, but I think you may develop some type of, not necessarily a bias or a fear. You're always looking at things about what is going to get me next. Okay. So if you couple that with, like you're saying, that the police may be bad, or what some of the protesters are saying, that they've grown up that the police are bad, don't call the police. Sure. So that person has the, I'm going to be in trouble. And then the cop has the feeling that I'm going to be in trouble. And that may just not be a good synergy. And especially now in the past couple of years, at least here in the United States, tensions have really escalated, and police really have had a target on their back. And so maybe both sides are hypersensitive. I don't know if that answered your question, but I think it kind of encompasses all parts of it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
I don't think my parents ever said to me about the cops being bad.
No, I don't think.
I think it was more that I think they just told me that there was monsters under my bed. If I was ever stupid, they'd come out and get me. I think I just had that.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, like
some people, we'll say some people.
Yeah. My parents. Yeah, I mean, my parents didn't say it, but I think it's quite common if we're, walking through the streets or something like that. But there seems to be almost, I'd say, like a fearful thing. I think you're right, Christine, 100% in terms of you should be. They're here to protect you. That's essentially their job, is here to look after you and make sure that you are safe as possible, doing everything that you would love to do in your life. And I think that's a really key message that I think a lot of, especially when I have kids and things like that, that'll be 100% the way I go. But it is, I think there's a stigma where it could be television, it could be media and things like that, where, a lot of people, I know that they'll be driving along, they look in the rearview mirror, there's a police car behind them, they get nervous. I'm like, you haven't done anything. But then they think, oh my.
I do too, but I do too. I'm driving and then I look like, how fast am I going, right? So I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
do you reckon it's just a power thing? Just not a power trip to them, but as in, because they have authority, you think, oh God, like, am I okay? Am I doing everything I should be?
You mean the citizen versus the police?
Yeah. I think there's.
Well, I just think nobody wants a ticket, right? Especially in the car, I think, right? So you're like, oh gosh, how fast am I going? Because we can all be distracted. Yeah. But I don't, and I don't know if I could answer that, because when I see cops, they're like, they're good. Like, hey, how you doing? And, sometimes it makes me nostalgic. I never had that impression, so I don't know how I can speak to that. Now, I did have some discussion with a friend of mine, that because I don't like the label of that it's all cops, or that a cop did this.
Sure.
And I said, there's medical professionals, there's surgeons, they go into a surgery and they don't intend to do it, or a bus driver loses control. And I just don't like the profession being attached to it.
Yeah.
That's what's really frustrating. And I will tell you, there's good and bad people everywhere, but specifically around this recent incident, I think we're talking about Missouri.
Yeah.
Is it
George
Missouri?
Floyd.
I'm getting there. Yeah, George Floyd. There's so many states that this officer, having worked, and I'm not defending him in any way. I was shocked when I saw the
Sure.
video, but having worked, I think 19 or 20 years on the force, you don't get paid enough to do that job. I don't think any officer puts on their uniform and says, I'm going to go kill someone today.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to have to pull out their gun or do anything like that. And a lot of times it breaks our hearts to even have to arrest people. But sometimes people need a course correction. So that's what I think is most distressing. So I can't comment on whatever happened in his situation, but I know that every cop that I've talked to, that why would we do the job? If that was the intent, you would get hired and go get your rocks off or whatever, and then it's done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't take 20 years. Was he released today?
I think it was, I don't know if it was him. I think it was which that is just crazy. I think it was one of the other officers and I say those poor guys, and I'm not saying anything about guilt or innocence because I don't know who did what, but 2 days on the job, 4 days on the job, and you're in jail for murder. I mean, that's just the job. Like that's horrific. That's horrific, because when you get out there, you don't know what you're doing, and there is a culture with the supervisory officer, and it sounds like they were trying to make suggestions, and it's just horrible situation.
Yeah. And just quickly touching upon, you were saying obviously that you had like the kind of the psych tests all the way, through at the start and stuff like that. Does that continue like throughout the force as you go through? Just because I can imagine obviously you have like these stressful situations. You kind of, so for instance, my sister, she's a psychotherapist, which is, we did a podcast with her and we were saying that she has to have a psychotherapist that she goes and sees to unload everything that she obviously is taking on. And I was thinking, I wonder if there was anything within the kind of force which has that kind of ability, because I can imagine PTSD potentially is something that is very common in the force.
Well, one of the things you talk about is about taking it home, and like I talked about the humor, being able to let it out, right? Yeah. Most normal people don't understand what you're going through, so you can't, I think about when the people came back from Vietnam or whatever, there's obviously got to be, PTSD and all this stuff that gets stuff down. But the culture that I worked in, you couldn't cry. You couldn't get upset. One of my friends was shot and I was in the station reeling, just like, oh my goodness. And I was told, suck it up and go back out. And so to sit down for a psych evaluation or something like that, or, maybe they have it, like if an officer gets shot or something, or there's a really horrific crime, there's maybe a chaplain or somebody that comes that's available. But in my experience, it's been perceived as weakness if you just can't handle it and soldier on. So maybe that's something to think about, that I don't want to say like I'm thinking about being weak.
Yeah. We're all human.
Is okay.
Yeah.
Right. But as the officer, like the military person, that's not good. That's not perceived as good. And you could be theoretically penalized within the department if you were that way.
Okay. Almost that's like that you're like, that you're not strong enough to go and do a certain X or something like that. So we'll put you to something else in terms of that way, like penalized.
you just have to be tough as nails. I mean, if you think about it, you have to be ready to engage in a firefight at any moment. You have to be able to be the first one through the door.
Yeah.
There has to be no doubt about your ability or mental capacity to be able to handle it, because it's not just yourself. It's every coworker of yours.
Yeah.
They have to know, because it's a trust. They have to know that you're solid and good to go. And sometimes you're very afraid and you just have to go past the fear and go into it. Yeah. And that happens every day. But you can't show, I don't know, if you had a friend that you hung out with all the time, and I don't know, you're playing rugby or something like that, and I don't want to say like with a guy, and he's always like, oh, I'm really scared of the other team, and oh, I don't know if I'm able to make it. Right? Would you want that person on your team? Like, I mean, it makes you think like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
He's a friend to have.
It's giving you an extra worry as well.
Exactly. So whether you're feeling it or not, you can't show it, which gives further stress, because we all have to stick together, but that is kind of what builds the solidarity. I would assume, I haven't been in the military, like the military, that that person always has your back. Yeah. And when you call, they're going to come, and they're going to come despite their fear. So if this person is fearful, they're going to come because they know that you're going to come for them. And then if it goes bad, you're going to figure it out together. And I mean, do you want a police or military force that says, well, I don't know if I'm able to go to work today, right? I don't know. Like maybe we've created our own thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd last.
What's that? Sorry?
I work in retail. I probably have a breakdown every other month. No, I'm joking. It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
No, yeah.
There must be, I'm not saying it, there must be some good times. There must have been some good times. I can imagine there's been some incredible moments. How long were you in the force, or how long were you a police officer before you?
About 14 years.
Wow.
Total. Yeah. There's always good times. I mean, if it wasn't probably, I don't even know what percentage. If it wasn't probably, 51%, depending on the day, right? Some days can be 0% fun, especially when it's raining and it's hot and just doing something awful. But it has to be fun. There's no way with the pay and the stress and the stuff that you go through. There's never enough money and what it does to your family and your relationships. So it has to be fun, right? We're getting something back, being able to help people. And it's mostly, and maybe fun is not the right word. It's fun for me. I like investigating. I like doing that. I like helping people, driving with the lights and siren on is really awesome. Working undercover is a lot of fun. See, I get to be an actress without having to go on the stage. But yeah, it's fun and it's very rewarding, and it's also challenging for me. It helped me grow into a completely different person, and I don't feel I would be that person if I hadn't gone through that opportunity. It's also provided me with the ability to read people and sense situations that I just don't feel I get taken advantage of or get into situations. So I'm happy for that, because I don't feel I'm a sheep. I don't know if they talk about sheep. I'm not a sheep.
Yeah.
In any
I can
sense.
imagine every day's different as well.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Never anything the same.
Well, yeah, and you get to go to the calls, and then you get to, if you're the patrol officer, you get to make work, right? You can go write some bits, or just go patrolling around and do whatever. A lot of variety, and that's one of the reasons I liked it.
Yeah. Just going quickly.
That's good.
A question.
I'm glad.
I don't know. Yeah, the good, the bad, and obviously the ugly.
Yeah, I'm glad there's some good. Gosh.
Yeah. I've got a question. I don't know whether you know about it or you might have heard about it, especially, but agent provocateurs and stuff like that. it's been on our news quite a lot about people who are out there basically kind of trying to start something to almost create the riots or something like that. There was a video that recently went around on Facebook from the UK, and it was a guy, or it might have been in the US, and he was basically, they were in the protest and they were saying, you know, let's tip over the truck, and everyone was like, what? Let's tip over the truck, like essentially lift it or roll it or whatever they wanted to do. And he must have said it to the wrong people, because they were obviously peaceful protesters, and they kind of all went, what? And they all went for him and was like, you're trying to start this, or you're trying to think. Is there anything like that you've come across before, like people who are physically there just trying to get something? There's been some things that have been said about I want to say ex-cops, but people in like kind of riot gear or something, like smashing a window and then suddenly looting starts or something like that. I don't know if that's the media portraying that, but I've heard the word agent provocateurs kind of knocked around quite a bit. I don't know if that's something you might have come in contact with or kind of know anything about.
Well, I haven't heard that term. I was thinking when you said that, like a mercenary or whatever, but specifically related to the protest here, they're calling, and I don't even know how to pronounce it, Antifa,
yes,
whatever, you know, that there are definitely factions. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things that people were paying people to protest, that people were, you know, organizing things. And in fact, there was one video that I saw that somebody, I think it was in California, somebody stole two rifles out of the police car, and the guy just took back from them. And that was great. I mean, the cars have been turned over and burned, and the windows, it's so disgusting to me.
Yeah.
But I think that people will always be opportunists.
Yes.
And to 100%. See what they can do. And so, which is also very scary, because they're talking about defunding the police and getting rid of police departments. And so when this happens, people are taking advantage of opportunity. Then what's going to happen if, you know, they talk about the thin blue line? What's going to happen when there is nothing to protect that? So yes, there has been what I feel here, and I haven't heard anything about, you know, with the uniforms and stuff like that, but the Antifa and that sort of thing, I don't know who it is, but people are definitely being opportunistic.
Yeah. And yeah, it's crazy stuff. And what about your current role? Talk us through your current role. Obviously, this is a transition that you've made into this. Is obviously your own business, on entrepreneurialism as well. On the entrepreneurial side, how was that starting your own business? How did that come about? How did it feel? What good times, obviously bad times, everything like that?
Wow. Well, so my current role is I am an investigator, private investigator, over almost 12 years. And I have been most of the time in business by myself. And I recently hired another investigator to help with some of the challenges I had. But man, being an entrepreneur is tough. I think that because I like to help a lot of, when I first started, I wasn't going to share anything with anybody, right? I'm like, okay, I'm hanging on by my nails, right? So good luck with that. I'm doing for me.
Yeah.
But then as I became successful and stuff, and I realized, you know, there's more than enough to go around. I didn't need to be secretive or whatever, because I think a lot of people go into business and they don't. Thankfully, I had a marketing and internet background, which saved me. But people go into business and they have a skill, or they don't have a skill, and they just think that the business is going to happen. You know, customers are just going to show up. You don't have to do anything, or you pay for a couple Google ads and it's going to be amazing. Now, one thing I will tell you, the benefit of being in the police department is if you got a large investigation, you went until the investigation, as a detective, you went until it was done, right? You did what you needed to do with with most respect, within the budget, you know, the whole police department budget, you know, like the OJ case, right? The budget and whatever.
Sure.
And in the private investigative world, civilians don't want to pay. So the tough part when I started was that people want a solution, and you tell them what the solution is, and then they don't want to pay for it. So they want everything for $19.95, right. Unless they're a law firm or a corporation or whatever, because it is expensive, and expertise is expensive. And so it was a struggle for a while. When I first started in business, what I thought people would want is not what they wanted. I thought they would want, as business owners, background checks, right? To prevent. So as a police officer, we're always looking ahead, like what's going to come and get me. Sure, Let's be prepared. And so I said, well, they're going to want background checks so that employees don't take advantage of them. No. And then at the time we had what we called E-Verify for immigration. That was enacted. So the businesses had to do that. And I said, okay, well, they're going to want to do that. Nope, they don't care. And so I found that people would rather wait until after something bad happened and they were forced to do it than being proactive. And so I just had to change a lot of model of what I did and go after a different customer. And so I think people starting as a business owner, you have to be really flexible. You have to understand that what you want to go into business for may not be what your customer wants. And so then you have to make the decision about, okay, they want X, Y, and Z. Do I want to produce that, or do I want to service that? Does that, you know, is it a win-win on both sides? Like, is that the reason that you went in business? And then you have to hang in there, because there's hard times and there's good times and bad times, and you have to get through it. It really shows you what you're made of.
Yeah. I think it's from doing business and things like that. It's funny talking to a lot of people who've got that entrepreneurial side to them, where you can tell when someone doesn't, like you said, is coming across that you want to start a business, and they're like, okay, everyone needs a website, and then some people will be like, right, I'll have to go and pay for one or something like that. Well, actually, you could try yourself, and then you start learning how to build websites, and you have that developing skill of, okay, I've got to put my hand to this now and try and build it. And especially, I don't know exactly what the stat is, I can't remember, but it's like 1 in 10 businesses survive their first year. So coming out the back of that, if you know, okay, I'm doing all right now, like, and it starts to build traction and stuff like that. So yeah, amazing. Obviously, 12 years, do you say that you've been doing this now? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it will be August. Yeah.
Wow.
At what point does someone get in touch with a PI?
Wow. Well, there could there could be a lot. So everybody, as soon as I say private investigator, they go, "Oh, cheating spouse," and I say,
"I wasn't thinking that at all. I don't know what you mean."
I don't do that. But there's a lot of things. So I was a paralegal before I got into the police department, and I want to go where the money is, right? Again, people versus whatever. I want what I call the gravy train, where the money is going to continue to come. And so I tell, my investigators that if you work with a client that's what I call a one-off, that's done. So you've invested all this time and energy, and you may or may not get repeat business. Whereas if you go for a law firm or a corporation or some type of contractual agreement, you're getting ongoing business, right? Sure. Because they have cases coming. Yeah. But they can do from background checks, scene investigations. Right now, I'm primarily centered on criminal defense investigations and supporting civil attorneys for personal injury. I do judgment recovery, so I find bank accounts and go after employers for people that have won lawsuits and the debtor does not pay. It's not, well, I don't know if you see Judge Judy over there. Do you know who Judge Judy?
Yeah, we get that. Yeah.
Okay, so you have Judge Judy and bang, okay, in favor of the defendant or the plaintiff, and they think they're going to get this money, and they come out of court and that's it. They have a piece of paper. And so they have to go through this whole process to find the assets and get the money. So those are some of the things that I do.
Do you ever get to do that? do you ever get to go around with the big white van and start seizing goods from people's houses?
Well, being a civilian, we can't seize anything, but we can get the constable to do that, right?
Okay.
So we know how to do that. But I'm really good at finding bank accounts and serving garnishments, and people tend to pay when all of a sudden their bank account is frozen.
Oh, I can
and
imagine.
their money all disappears, right?
Yeah.
They've got the money right away then, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hello. Yeah. That can be a little. Yeah. Well, because people, and again, it goes, I think, with a certain kind of person that where they say if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? So you can see, that's why I believe in background checks. You can see things in people's behavior that are indicators. So when people come to me and say, well, so-and-so hasn't paid, I'm like, okay, well, they're probably not going to pay, because if they didn't pay in the beginning, or people that have a lot of traffic infractions, or they don't renew their license, I feel they have a disrespect for authority or obligation, and that tends to flow through their life.
Sure.
And so those are just the kind of things that I do. And then I have a passion project, which is Help Solve the Case, where I work on cold unsolved cases. That's always been a passion of mine. And I've started focusing also on wrongful conviction and genetic genealogy to help people find family members, and also to help law enforcement solve the cold cases, to develop a suspect through that.
Wow. So that's something that's
cool.
like, sounds like a passion project on the side, which is insanely serious at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, it's the helping. Right?
Yeah. It's that
helping.
kind of, that human need of being able to, help and give and everything like that. And I can't help it. Like
that's my nature, right? Like I wish sometimes I couldn't, right? Because you talk about work-life balance, whatever, but you hear like, what's going on? You need what?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if
it's
in
to
your nature,
the wall all the time.
and if you're very good at it as well, if, like you said, you're good at these things, to read people and see patterns, so you can advise people very quickly. Do you struggle to turn it off? Do you struggle to kind of shut down? And is there points
There's
where
no turning off being helpful?
Yeah, well, no, not just helpful, but
there's
work.
no turning off being helpful, but I don't know, just my nature. I read a lot, I watch a lot, I learn things. People say, where do you get that? I'm like, I don't know, I read it in a book, or and I talk about, I don't know how you guys feel about gut feeling. I tell people all the time to trust their gut. And when I was in law enforcement, I focused on it all the time. Like, I always paid attention to it, like the hair on the back of your neck goes up. And then when I got out, I would feel something and I would dismiss it, or I would make excuses, like just in relationships or different situations. And now I've really come to trust it. And I said, well, if you were going to trust it in that aspect where the danger is potentially a lot higher, you really need to trust it now. And so when you talk about turning it off, it's never off. And friends and family, I'll just be like, and I say, I can't necessarily tell you what it is. Like right now, when I get what I call the ick vibe, when I get that feeling, then that is a no. Okay. And I tell people, so when you have that, the best thing I can also tell you is when you have that, you will not 99% of the time know what that is, but listen to it, because if you follow it, you can look back later and go, oh yeah, that was that. And so that never turns off. And I'm always looking when I talk to people, and we're now on video, but if we were sitting in a restaurant, I'm like doing it, like it just never turns off. Yeah. But I appreciate it because it keeps me safe. Like I said, I'm a completely different person, and I'm glad of it. I'm glad that I was able to help so many people. I do worry about the stress. I've had skin cancer and stuff from being out in the sun and all that, but I wouldn't have done it any other way. It's just who I am. Wow. So very, very happy about it.
Yeah. And in terms of like your work, things like that, do you find that some of the cases the typical movies, them working through the night, early hours of the morning, suddenly that's it, something's come to light. Are you working like that, or are you kind of like you set hours and then outside of that is kind of friends and family? Because the entrepreneurial, they always say, there's no switch off from work. You're always thinking about what's the next process, what's the next thing that I can do to kind of take it to the next level and things like that. Do you turn it off and that's it? Like you kind of right, this is downtime for me, friends, family, etc.
I try. I think as an investigator, it never really turns off because you never know when you're going to think of something. I like driving, and having been on patrol, I'm used to driving, right? So I like driving because it kind of frees my mind, but I also get a lot of great ideas. Yeah. And so even though you're trying not to think of it, sometimes your mind, have you ever tried to write a paper or something for school and you're forced to do it and just nothing is coming out?
Yeah.
But then
all the time.
Okay. So then if you free yourself from that, all of a sudden you get these ideas. And that's kind of the thing that you focus on it so long, and then more things come to you. But also being an entrepreneur, it's just been me. I don't have a husband or anybody to support me or fall back on or anything. And so sometimes you work because it's exciting and you're on the case path, like, okay, I'm going to go here and then I got to go here. And, oh, okay. And we got all this stuff. And so it's exciting. You're just going to follow it. And then other times you have a whole glut of clients and you're like, oh, I got too much work. And you're like, that's not a bad thing. And so then you're working all the time. And then sometimes you have nothing going on, but that's not even building your business. And that's what people don't understand being an entrepreneur. You have the doing, and then you have the whole running of the business.
Yeah.
Which is different. Yeah. So you just have to make the time where you can. And sometimes you have to forcefully shut down. Like I'm getting ready to go on vacation and I need it. And I've told my employee, like, with the COVID, and I was taking care of my mom, and it's just been really crazy and stressful, just everything that's going on. And I said, okay, I'm not taking I'm not going to be available. And at the same time I go, but I have to do it. Right. So sometimes you have to do it, and you have to know yourself too, that you have to know when you get to that point to be able to do it.
Yeah. And I think,
are you doing anything nice?
Yeah. I was going to say, whereabouts are you heading?
Yes. Well, I'm actually going to Illinois, to the Chicago area, because I have some newfound family there. Amazing. And going to Tennessee.
Is that through your work?
No, well, that's through DNA.
Okay.
That's through DNA. I was going to tell you guys that actually relatives coming from Manchester, I believe.
Really?
That my family. Cool. Yeah. And so eventually I'm gonna come over because I want to go to Germany, and England. I want to go to Ireland and Norway. But I have some newfound family. I took a DNA test 2 years ago and had the surprise of my life. I found out that my father is not my father. I didn't know my father, but he's not my father. And my mother's father is not her father. And I found a half sibling who's alive and a half sibling who's deceased. So yeah, my whole world has scrambled.
Talk about flipping it up.
Yeah. So I'm very good. That's what I say with the genetic genealogy. I'm very good. I'm very good at the family trees right now. And so I haven't found my dad. I found who I believe. And I was raised in Florida. Okay, I was born in Florida. And so all these people, all of a sudden, I thought I was Irish and English. And then now I'm part German from Chicago. So I've found my grandfather. And so we cannot find a child. And so I'm working on that, but I have met the cousins. They've been very accepting. And so I'm going to go look at some cemeteries and go see some high school friends and just get away and do whatever I want. Yeah. So very excited. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be really
cool. I'll look you guys up next year when I head over.
100%. 100%. Hopefully this will still be going by then. We'll be on 125 podcasts by then, I reckon.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. So can I ask you guys a question? I mean, since we're having coffee, how bad has the lockdown been for you guys? You guys are still quarantined?
So we are, yeah. We are still in semi-quarantine, I guess we can call it, Josh.
Yeah.
Basically, we've been allowed in the last week to basically see up to 6 people from outside of our household.
Still with 2 meter distancing.
We still have to be outside, abiding by the 2 meter distance, and that sort of stuff.
How does that work? 6 people. So like you meet in the middle of the street. Like how does that?
I guess going to the park and things like that, and just sitting in a circle, 2 meters between each other.
So it's like groups of 6. I wondered, is it like 6 strangers or?
Oh no, yeah.
And you have to laugh because this is crazy, right?
It is mental. It is crazy.
It's all a bit up in the air at the moment. And
yeah,
I think there's other things that are happening this week. I know there was talk of kids going back to school. That's now been cut. That's not happening, which I think's good.
Yeah,
I think that was a terrible idea. People going back to school.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys, do you think that most people over there take it seriously? I mean, with, Boris Johnson, with him getting so sick, like, did that make an impact? Because, so my mom has dementia and she was in a facility. And when it first happened, they assured me that she was fine. And then I was like, that feeling. I was like,
Yeah.
And so I pulled her out and I took her in my house, which was a whole other experience.
Yeah.
And over 18 people at her facility died. And
oh my God.
And so here people seem to not take it seriously. And I wondered how it was there.
So I think people started off taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But I think the British are very good at lots of things, but one of the things we're the best at is not listening.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's a typical typical British. I
think we're getting to the point now where I think people are just like, okay, I just kind of want to do whatever what I want to do now. But go on, Josh, say what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, so like when it first started, so I think we went into lockdown on the 23rd of March. It was kind of like a shock, but it felt like a lot of people there was an excitement in the air because no one knows what's obviously going on. And that's one of the things that I think people need that little almost refresh a little bit is like, look, no one's ever dealt with this. So we're kind of guessing our way through this a little bit. And obviously, it was going through, Boris got ill, and I think everyone started to kind of breathe a little bit heavier in the sense of, okay, this is quite serious. Like he's actually in intensive care now. They're kind of looking after him. They're keeping an eye. Is he coming back? Then he kind of
it was touch and go.
Yeah. And everyone was kind of almost a bit, I'm not sure if we're coming, we're going, like what happens? And the numbers just kept going up and they were going up at a very fast rate. And then the one thing I think what was happening at the start was Britain or the United Kingdom was looking at a Swedish model in the sense of lockdown, but you can move around, you can do your day, but just keep your 2 meters, be wary, wash your hands, all that malarkey. And then there was a study that came out by is it Johns Hopkins or something like that, and they basically were like lockdown is now imminent. And I think it was because they were seeing the pressures of other countries basically going into lockdown. We went into lockdown. It was going, obviously things were happening. They started to release it a little bit, and people could move a little bit more. But the British public, like Drew said, it's absolutely right, is we're almost very good at predicting what's about to happen, and we're already doing it. So when they,
Yeah.
the problem which I believe the politics side that they're having is they say on Monday the 15th, you can, or like,
and they're like, okay, so today's Friday, we're good to go.
exactly. Yeah, they're not saying
exactly
like from
They did that
today.
here.
Yeah. So we're almost kind of like,
good then. It's got to be good now.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we're going to get a jump on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that.
in a
And it
week's
was like,
time, you can meet your friends. Oh, okay, we'll do it now then.
Yeah. And one of the weird things was like transport. They said next or the start of Monday, you will now have to wear face masks on the tube. And they were like, what? So what, before Monday it's all right? Like, what's the consensus? Like, why don't we just do it now? And it's been, I think there's been a mockery of kind of the British people, really. And I think it's right. We've said many a time, look, no one wants Boris's job. It's an incredibly stressful, you know, he came down with it. Well,
no one wants anyone in power's job right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, he had like Brexit, then he had COVID. He actually got it. He got the pandemic.
And he had the baby. He had the baby.
Exactly that. Yeah, he had a baby. Then he comes out. Then you've got obviously the riots, the protests, and it's a lot. You know, a lot of stress on one man. And everyone,
I don't think he's done a bad job.
I think
he could have done better.
Yeah, I think we could have done better. But look.
Well, like I say, who wants that job? Like a lot of people, they're talking about police officers here and stuff and defunding these departments. I'm like, well, good luck. Good luck getting anybody, because I wouldn't do it today.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it today. So
yeah.
That's
I think
what's it been like?
Sorry, Gerard. I was literally just going to say, I think one of the biggest mistakes that the UK made, or which made us look a mockery, was essentially you guys in the US did very good at, right, we're locked down. No one comes in, no one comes out unless you're a US citizen, in you come type thing. Fantastic. I personally think. And then anyone who comes in, you're quarantined for 14 days. If you're okay, brilliant, you move on. Here in the UK, we didn't have any quarantine coming into the country, but also we're kind of a central hub in the world of people fly to us to then fly on to another country, or they come in. And they said, I think there was 18 million people which touched down in the country. There was no quarantine, there was nothing. But then as of the 8th of June, 14-day quarantine. And their argument was, well, because the numbers are low now, it works much better. Where when you think, well, surely when the numbers are anything, you just put them in anyway. So people that are coming on holiday have to do the lockdown. I believe so. I think they're talking now about like there's going to be like air bridges, so certain countries can come in and maybe they're exempt from the 14 kind of day quarantine. But you know, even for UK citizens and things like that, if we're looking for holidays, we go on holiday, we come back, then we've got to take 2 weeks off work.
We've then got a quarantine.
Just to wait until, if we're okay, brilliant, we're back in work. So holiday for really the UK at the moment, people are like, I can't afford it, because if I do go away, I've got unpaid of 2 weeks just to sit around to see if I'm okay.
After the fact.
Yeah, exactly. It's up in the air. And the thing is, we're taking a lot of U-turns, which is okay. But I think they just need to be like, look, we're wrong. This is what we're doing now, and this is the reason why, rather than being like, oh, no, we were right. We're just now changing because the science is changing. Like, just admit that you're wrong. They haven't got that. I think
it's a lot of,
I don't know if
don't
it's a
go
British
out,
thing.
but go out. But don't go out. But you can go out. But don't go out. Stay home. Save lives.
Yeah.
But you can go out.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
What is going on?
I guess I feel kind of better. Like we have a lot of ocean, so as long as the bottom, like, don't fly anybody in here. You know, like don't bring anybody in. I don't know. They were talking about having, I guess, the Republican convention. I guess they just named it in Jacksonville in Florida, and they were talking about having it here. It's like, please don't, cooties, like don't bring it here. And I think the problem is it's just so unknown. We just don't know.
Yeah. What's your take on America and how you guys have done it? Because we've seen like loads of different bits and bobs, but what's it been like actually being there and the feel and stuff like that?
Well, I think there's a difference in if you haven't been affected by COVID.
Yeah.
I don't think you understand, right? And so when I heard everything, like the first case up in Washington State, again, because of my mom, and maybe because in the police department, you get infectious disease, hazmat type training.
Yeah.
I understand like what a biological weapon and how biology and things could be. And, they talk about the flu. I didn't even realize, I guess, that the flu was that bad, and then having this, and you don't really understand it. But I just was, because I'm responsible for my mom, I'm like, I'm not getting it. So I started staying in, and I'm like, I'm going to wear a mask, and sure. I just don't want to risk it. That's just my behavior. But so many people, I can understand being upset about your business and all this stuff, but when you don't have your life, and I think the thing that, yay, type O, because now they're saying, the blood typing, but when you don't know if you're going to get it or how bad you're going to get it, like if they said, okay, well, you're just going to have, you're going to have a cough and a sneeze, then you're like, okay, let me go to work and do all that. But people that are so healthy and whatever are just dying and getting so sick. But it's the same thing. Like I was watching, they would be broadcasting, and we're watching the Facebook feed or whatever, and they're talking about, when can we go to the park, and when is Taco Bell going to be open? That's a restaurant. And, I don't know if you have it, but all this stuff, it's just insane stuff. And the businesses, and I understand thankfully I make my own money, right? So my revenue was not impacted, except for the time I couldn't work taking care of my mom.
Sure.
But it's just such a mess. And they were talking about people, but then they said, okay, we're gonna put the people over the money. And now it's crazy because they're paying people so much. I don't know if you're aware.
Like the furlough?
The unemployment. I'm sorry?
Because you guys have furlough. Is that what you're referring to? But I know the unemployment rate is enormous.
Well, all the businesses had to close. And so I think some people were getting, I don't know if it was, I don't want to say $800 a week, or they were getting an extra $600. Like it's a crazy, they were getting maybe about $4,000 a month. And don't quote me on that because I'm not exactly sure. I didn't take any money or any of that paycheck protection, but they've worked them into a situation. I mean, if we talk about the economy, there's so many jobs that so many people don't want to take. Yeah. Right. And then they complain. This is before COVID. And then there's they complain about no opportunity. And then now I know that people have needed money, but I don't know how that's going to work because people would rather stay home because they're getting so much money. And then I hear businesses are so excited to open and they need clients, but a few things that I've tried to do, you can't get them to come out, like they're not working. And it's like, well, I thought you were complaining about you needed to work and now you're not working. So it's just
can't wait to go back to work.
Yeah. I think actually
I can't wait to go back, honestly.
Yeah.
And the loneliness factor, the isolation.
For me, I'm such a social butterfly. Like I just need to be around people, and this is like it's been relatively good because I live with my dad and my two brothers, so it's been nice having sort of my dad's self-employed as well. He's been doing what he can. My brother's been told he can go back to work. I don't know when I'm going back, but I need something. It's crazy.
It's tough, and we've got a thing called the furlough. I think it's in the States as well, but essentially it's government funding. So if you were on X amount of your percentage, you get 80%, I think, for most people, of your actual wage up to a certain limit. Which, to be fair, we can slate the government and stuff like that as much as we do potentially over here, but that has been an absolute.
They smashed that.
They've done
really well with that.
Let me tell you, I think if you're getting what did you say? 80% of what you're earning. I think before they got the 600, the base thing is $230 a week or something like that.
Sure.
So you only get $800 a month.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I don't know what the prices are, whatever. And so then they added, I think, the extra $600 a week to it. And so, but yeah, it's just a flat, I think it's just a flat fee. I don't think they graduate it based on what you were making, but
okay.
I could be wrong, but yeah.
And I think because we're in like week 11, week 12 almost of the lockdown. You know,
something
and if
like
you
that.
have been
I've lost count.
Yeah, if you've
Crazy.
been completely locked
Don't know what day it is. Don't know what month it is.
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Who am I? Where am I?
But I think
and I have the whatever, I don't know what they were calling it, the quarantine whatever, but you know, they were talking about it's like the freshman 15. Well, I think I've got the quarantine 40 after you know, because we couldn't get fresh food, and then trying to get stuff delivered, and yeah. I'm ready to go out, right? I'm ready to travel, but I'm scared. I'm scared because you don't know. You don't know who has it and how bad it is. Like I said, if you knew that you were just going to get the sniffles, it would be one thing, but you could just die, and there's no control. There's no control over it, right?
Yeah, that's I think the frightening thing, isn't it? Is, you know, there's no common. There's common symptoms, but there's no commonality in how it hits people. It could hit someone a lot harder, or you could be asymptomatic and not even know that you have it. Which is obviously where the fright, like we were talking to someone the other day, and they were saying about, you know, COVID is a fairly low death rate in kids and youths and stuff like that. You know, obviously devastating, it does happen, but it's fairly low. Where influenza, the flu, can kill kids by masses, but you know, it's still everyone's in this situation of like kind of, but we don't know how hard it hits everyone. It's so it's almost like you just pick a card and whatever that is, that's what you're getting. So it's hard.
No, I don't want to play. I don't want to play that game.
Yeah, Russian roulette.
You can bin them cards.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was like? So I watched some shows on TV, and now I'm like, oh, they're getting too close, right?
We were talking about this the other day.
Oh my God, we were speaking about this.
It strikes me. I'm like, oh, and then
oh my God, why are they hugging?
Oh no! Well, warning. Yeah. And so now people.
I think I've got gloves on when they high five.
We're watching it and thinking
crazy.
2 meters.
It's really bad, and people are like, "Are you going to date?" I'm like, "No, like I don't want to get in anybody's car. I don't want to touch it." You know, even going into the stores, they talk about the air conditioning and stuff. So but that's crazy. I'm watching TV, and oh yeah, that was before. So are we going to be able to go back to normal, where we just walked around and hugged?
What's normal?
Yeah.
Well, but you know what I mean? Before, where we were free, like that's the word I use, where we could just be. It's so scary to think that we won't be able to do that.
Do you think it will get to the point where we don't know what it is, and we don't know how it's going to affect people, but the death rates in COVID, like you just said, Josh, are low compared to other diseases like influenza? Do you think it gets to the point where we just say,
this is just something we live with?
It's here. There's nothing that we haven't got anything to fight against it at the moment. It is what it's horrible, but it is what it is. You just have to go about your normal life, and just you have to social distance. You have to do these things. Because shopping and things like that, like going to the supermarket or the superstore or whatever, that's not changing anytime soon. Like whether it goes back to normal, that's here to stay for a good while.
Yeah.
To be fair, I can honestly say I don't think that's going to change for the next 5 to 10 years. I feel like that's going to stay the same. Well, there's going to be elements of it that are going to stay the same, 100%. Maybe not queuing outside, but could do without that in the rain.
In the rain, English rain.
Yeah, I don't know.
whether we just it's something that we live with, and like it. I mean, look, they're obviously doing incredible work trying to find vaccines and things like this, which is, fingers crossed for everyone. But then that's got to be rolled out.
Are you gonna take them?
Yeah, you know what? It's a very interesting point, isn't it? There's a fence of people that are kind of either side, because there's a vaccine, it's going to be newly done, but what are the precautions 10 years down the line? How do we know? So I think, yes, I will, because I want to live my life as normal as it can be. And like you said, you want to go back to the point where you're not, your subconscious just works, and you're not consciously thinking 2 meters. Oh, they've touched that. They should buy that now because they put it back. Like, what are they doing? And it kind of just go back to that normality. I think I would, but I appreciate people's opinions, especially when they're saying, but how do you know 5 years from now what that effect's going to have? It's interesting.
Well, I wanted to. We were talking about the police stuff, and just what you were talking about, that like always being on guard, and is that going to get me? They touch that. That's kind of how a cop thinks.
Yeah.
Right. So that stressful or uncomfortable, like I think going to the store, like everything's a hassle with the mask and carrying this and don't touch that and stay away from me. And like, it's just like, ugh. But what you're talking about is always watching, and am I too far and whatever. That is how a cop feels. Yeah. Because you're always having to look at the threat, and it may not be the COVID droplet, but it could be a gun or a fist or a whatever. So it's kind of the same thing. So people that say, I don't understand what your perspective or how that is, that's the life.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. One of my friends, he's a policeman in the UK, and we're hopefully going to try and get him on as well to get some contrast perspectives.
Oh, awesome.
and stuff like that. So that'd be really, really interesting. But he said to me, it's become a point where he'll walk into a restaurant and they'll go to seat him, and he'll be looking at exits. He'll be looking where his back is. He doesn't want his back to be open. He wants his back to be in a corner or up against the wall, so he knows that he's got X amount. And he said it's annoying that I can't switch it off. It's just how I am now. That's how I am. I'm always aware that. And he said you can, yes. Exactly what you said, Christine, in the sense of that kind of. I've done some work and studies into it. It's called like quantum alignment, where your heart and mind align. That kind of instinct is like, okay, there could be a threat. And he said, I'll sit there and I'll have this feeling of like that conversation's just getting that little bit, heated. And he said, you can almost predict,
rowdy, yeah,
you can predict exactly what's going to happen. So you're kind of planning everything around it. And he said it's just something that you do now. It's part of what you do, and you learn about it, and you learn very fast because you're out on the streets, you're out with people, and you have to have that wits about you. So I think it's a real,
even when
real
you go for a meal.
What's that?
Even when you're going to eat.
Yeah.
Oh,
there really is no switching off, is there?
Oh, it's all the time. And so people, my friends that know me, because I will get agitated and it's not the same seat all the time. It depends on the restaurant. And so people get agitated with me because I start going like, oh, like in my mind, I'm like, oh, and you can't help it. Like it just feels like a distress. Because then people brush behind you and they walk behind you, and it is just so annoying. And so when you have the wall, or you feel that you're in a safe space, like we talked about the other officers around you, then you can go and you get a moment's peace. But yeah, you do always recognize that stuff. Like it's never off, even in your personal time. But as I was saying, like your friend, I welcome that because I'm not a sheep. Like people like, how did you see that? I'm like, cause I did. And how I describe that is that kind of like watching a movie, the big supercomputer in your head, every aggressive move, aside from the movies and books and training, every aggressive move that you've ever seen, every bad word, every situation, every murder, burglary call, all that goes in there. And so your mind is able to, your subconscious is able to go, and it just, that's what I say, when you get that feeling, you don't consciously know what it is, but your brain is screaming danger, 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 because it has, like IBM's Watson, it's super computed it. And it knows based on the experiences that it's a bad thing and you need to get the heck out of Dodge. But yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing.
Crazy.
It's crazy. Obviously I appreciate we've had you on for a little while and your time.
No, this is awesome. This is great. I'm so glad to meet you guys and be able to talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the last questions, we're fascinated. What's your thoughts on
more? No. I'll talk all night.
What's your thoughts on the whole politics situation with the US? Trump.
You're not supposed to talk about politics.
Blimey, Josh. God, we've been on here for about 2 hours and we're only just now starting to talk about politics. Blimey, I'll get comfy, shall I?
I know, right?
We're to be fair, we're super here nor there. We're just fascinated by people's opinions and everyone's got their situation, what they like, what they don't like, and stuff like that. We're just we're in the same situation. Are you
talking about like a particular party or like I'm not?
Person.
Huh? Yes.
All of it.
Person.
Oh well, I don't. I mean, it's weird because I've varied back and forth. Okay, I was a Republican and then I was a Democrat and now I'm a Republican. But I like things from each. And I'm not one to get involved with the politics about, what the approval rating is, or are we doing a good job, or, was the COVID handled right? I'm just a person of action. Like if we have a crisis, I want someone to take action. I want to feel confident that somebody is going to do something. And, the position, I don't know how you can have a hard and fast position because things change on a dime, right? Yeah. I want to be heard. I don't want to lose all my freedoms, but I will tell you with the climate, and I'm not particular about, any one person, but I am really scared right now for what is going on in the United States. And I've seen some unrest in the rest of the world, but I'm not sure what's going on. Like, how did we get here?
Okay.
We can talk about the whole breakdown of the family or the church or whatever, all these theories, but I'm scared. I'm really scared. And I think the one comment I can make on it is I think it's gotten too political. The stuff that we saw when Obama got elected, just again, all the hatred and all the stuff. And now with Trump about the Twitter and the media, and there's too much focus on stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's take all that energy. Like, who cares whether the hair is real or the hair is not real, and who was at the party or not at the party, or who tweeted what? Like, let's focus on the core issues. I think people are getting so distracted.
Yeah.
With the other stuff, and
I guess,
and I'm worried.
I
think
media.
It makes what? Media?
It just makes media. It makes people like clickbait, read the news headlines and stuff like that. It just gets drawn in for so many people, doesn't it?
Well, at the same time, can you even trust what's even said? All right, you can't even trust what's being said, and then maybe like we're talking about with the protests and stuff, it gives people something to latch onto and something to believe in or to get invested in. And then what does that speak to people's personal power or feeling of confidence? I mean, I have no idea. I'm very scared. And if I'm scared that my friends and family will tell you that says something, but I don't know what the plan is to fix it. And it's very sad and distressing because I have a lot of things that I want to do in my life, and I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't know who's going to be around to do it with. Yeah, that's kind of it. I don't have an answer. I don't know who has the answer because nobody that anybody elects seems to like, nobody is happy with anything.
Yeah.
Well, what was the election? It's election year this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah. No, but like you're saying, I don't know what day it is, right?
Oh, yeah. It's all good.
I just want to know is COVID gone? Yes.
Yeah. Can I go out?
The difference between the UK and America is that when Trump was elected, it was like a 51-49 split, wasn't it? Or something ridiculous like that.
You're asking the wrong person.
Are you
talking about the popular vote or the electoral college? Like there's two, popular vote or electoral college.
So the elected him into presidency.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that was 51-49. Josh, back me up.
Okay, good. All right. And
Thank you. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's only my country. Yeah.
Where you go with this, Drew?
In the UK, if it's that much of a similar voting, there's what we call the hung parliament when both parties are then
put together
in charge. Or you would take, because there's quite a few parties in the UK that all can go for that elects and go for prime minister. If there's one party that's minority and then there's one that's very close to them, then the one that's got the most can then go for something that's a little bit lower to give them enough to then hold the whole, to have it all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's done by seats. I think it's the same in the US actually. So
it's completely all over the place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that in the US, does it?
I was going to say, I could be super controversial and say, do we need parliament or politics? I've heard people say that before, that we just live.
Okay, but okay, so that brings up an argument. See, we're going to talk all night, so we'll have to.
Let's do it.
Get comfortable.
They were talking on the TV about something called Shez or something that's going on in Seattle where they took over 6 city blocks and they ran the police out, and they're saying something about free food and all this stuff, but yet they're begging for food and supplies. So that's a little hypocrisy there, but good luck with that. But because they're talking about defund the police, right? So then I say, who's going to do that? So to me, I mean, I don't know anything about, the parliament or any of that, but if we completely got rid of government, I think we're going to be in the same, to me, it would be the same similar situation that there's got to be somebody in charge and even not like, again, I say something about sheep, leaders and followers. I think there would be a natural, like if everything just happened and poof, we're all just in the world. I think that there would be people that would naturally raise up and people would follow them. And whether it was a rule of law or whatever, they would just have a way of being that people would go along, kind of like almost like a religious doctrine or whatever. And they would just decide to follow that. And I don't know. I mean, isn't that how we got to where we are?
Yeah. I'll tell you.
Do you reckon they'll ever bring back the monarchy, Josh?
Well, I was going to say, aside from the king and queen, like, we didn't have that over here.
The queen, I was about to call her Liz.
Old Liz.
She has.
Hey, she was on Zoom. She was on Zoom. I thought that was awesome. She's out on her horse. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's 19.
We've been trying to get her on the podcast. I don't know how it's going.
Yeah.
I watched The Crown, okay? I'm all caught up. And obviously, with the ancestors, I need to do a little more learning. So you guys are going to have to school me.
Oh, God.
Oh, God, we could be talking for hours about that. days of that.
Yeah.
I mean, she has to pass judgment on everything that's any sort of law changes in anyway. So,
yeah,
let her make the decisions.
Yeah, interesting thing.
Well, so how do you feel about that? Because then you don't have a choice in that, right? So at least we elect people, right? And you have turnover, but the monarchy. I mean, how long has she been on the throne?
Over 60 years.
Is that the throne? Is that what you say?
Yeah, on the throne.
Reigning. Yeah. Wow. So
actually, it's more than that, isn't it? I think she was young. She was really young. When
she lost her father, didn't she? At the same time she got put in.
I'm trying to remember the movie.
Yeah.
Sorry,
she was in her 20s, I'm sure, or maybe even younger.
Oh. Okay, so I just have a quick question. How do you guys feel about the Harry situation?
What?
Drew?
Oh, don't get me started. Oh no. I mean, he's never going to be king. So in that aspect, I mean, I don't see why it's.
Do you mean as in like stepping down? Essentially.
Well, just in general, like I wonder. You guys asked me in the beginning when I had left the police department, and it was really a shift for me. And I think about him. He's in a foreign country. To him, I'm not sure if he's here in Canada, but he's in a foreign country, and he's not only lost. Did they strip him of his military? Right, so he's not participating in the military. And he's lost his whole family and all his, whatever.
There's part of me which I look at it and I think, yeah, good for you. I think both of the boys, William and Harry, I think more so William is very patriotic. He does his thing, but they're very much like the two boys are very much, I think, due to probably Diana's almost legacy about helping the public, being out there in the public amongst everyone. Harry even more so, and obviously with Meghan Markle and everything like this, I think them kind of taking a step back, saying, like Drew said, we're not going to be king and queen or anything like this, but actually we're just like you guys. We're one of you guys. We just were born in the lines of this. So actually, we want to go and volunteer. We want to go and do this work. I personally think it's a fantastic move. That's me personally. I think it's very controversial, and people were very offended when they were like, "Oh, they announced it on Twitter," and that's how the family turned out. Look,
everything's on Twitter.
Yeah, and look, I appreciate why they were.
Yeah,
neither am I. I hate Twitter with a passion.
Yeah, but I appreciate that. They could have been offended. That's how they found out, etc. But look, they're one of us.
I think he was given a lot.
Well, don't you think that the Twitter was a kind of a
bit of a statement point?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what your slang for that is, but a comeuppance. Yeah.
But it's fascinating. But what's your thoughts?
It's an interesting one.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on this? I heard some people talking about this, and I thought it would be fantastic. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson run for president. He did that speech. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook. It was about.
I did not.
Where
do you think I spend my days on Facebook?
No.
It's going to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson running against Kanye West.
Oh Jesus!
For the next presidency elections.
Okay. If I don't know anything about that, but I would have to say The Rock.
Yes. I'm with you.
Yes.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope so.
But I think him as a person, like you were saying that there's someone who you're naturally drawn to, who has someone you look up to, or who says the right things, and it's like they're talking to you and things like. He did a speech that was like 7 minutes long, and it was essentially like, "Where are you, our leader? Like step forward, show us the way, like lead." Very, very powerful, and I think Joe Rogan and things like that were like, right, get him for presidency. Like, it's just the amount of power this guy has. But I don't think he would ever do it. Look, his career and everything like this is phenomenal, an amazing story and everything like this. But for someone who you look up to and lead and inspire. I guess, you know, he's a perfect example of that kind of person, I'd say anyway.
I remember his debut back in the WWE.
In the wrestling.
Or WWF, actually, when it was back then. God, look at him now, eh?
Yeah.
Shooting for the stars.
I think when you talk about it, that, I mean, there's a difference in, if I can equate a little bit to being an officer, right? And I don't want to say like the power and the control or whatever, but just taking a job. So while he may be really great and everything, and a do-gooder and really earnest, the job does change you because,
of course, yeah.
Because in some instances you can't, and I don't want to say you can't be nice, but you have to be, excuse me, it's almost like the guys at Buckingham Palace, right? With the, you know, they don't make any facial, whatever. And it just, there's so many things that come with it that whether it changes you or not, it does change your responsibility. And, you know, could that type of person handle it? Would they want to handle it? There's just so much sacrifice, and I would never do it. I mean,
I definitely wouldn't.
And then, you know, like people talked about Trump having a politician versus a businessman, a business person. You know, I welcomed having more of a business person in there, having run a business. And, you know, there's some people, when you talk about being an entrepreneur and they have jobs and they don't worry about anything, because like if you're going through a hard time or business isn't flowing as well, and you want to go do something and you say, well, I don't have any receivables right now, or I have to wait until this. And some people are like, well, I get a paycheck this week. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Because the money just gets handed to them on a schedule every week. And so you can plan and all that. And I don't know. I just don't want it. I don't want it, but I don't like this unrest. I don't know what the answer is. It's just like, and then they were talking about that asteroid or whatever that was going to hit Earth. It's like, and then do you guys have those hornets or whatever those things are? This monster. Oh my God. Like, okay, what else is coming?
I saw a calendar for the rest of the 2020 the other day. It wasn't great.
It wasn't good? No.
What
else is coming?
I was going to say, I saw a meme.
December was asteroid. October, November was
flood.
Take two of COVID. June and July was riots. It was all. It was just like, oh no. Here's everyone at the beginning of the year thinking, oh, it's a new decade. It's time to make changes in my life. Oh, that didn't go well.
Or were we wrong? Like, who would have thought? Like, did anybody read the Farmer's Almanac or something? Like,
it's
crazy.
I saw a funny meme actually that was it was basically saying it was a picture of aliens all in a big meeting, and then it just said,
and they laugh and they move in.
That it was basically saying we're up next, and then another one was saying, fuck, I'm nervous. And it just made me laugh, and I thought it would be, wouldn't it? It'd be the year that would happen.
Oh man, yeah. I don't know. Well, this has been awesome, guys. I don't want to keep you up too late. I know it's like way late.
It's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock here in the UK.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been wonderful, and I appreciate you guys having me on. And
thank you so much.
I'm definitely going to reach out to you guys when I come over there.
100%.
As long as there's no COVID, you better take care of that.
Yeah. We'll look after that.
And same goes here if you come over. But thank you so much. I really
no worries.
It's been absolute pleasure.
Thank you for coming on. It's been pretty awesome. We do like to do one thing with all of our guests just to wrap up the podcast.
$1 million.
That'd be lovely. For us or for you?
Oh, I thought it was for me. No, okay. We'll split it. We'll split it.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Obviously, lockdown's been a massive thing in the entire world. What has been the biggest thing that's got you through lockdown? And what's been the driving force to getting you through?
Wow. Well, I kind of had two separate incidents with it. Taking care of my mom, which was so stressful, but there was no other option. So I just had to get through it. And so then maybe the thought of, once I can get her secure, they're like, whoo, I'll be free. But talking to my friends, a lot of Netflix. Thank goodness for all the delivery people that brought the food and stuff, because I couldn't go out. And just the hope that it has to get better. Like, not praying so much per se, but just the faith that, and maybe too, that knowing that everybody else is going through it, you know, kind of a solidarity. I don't know. That's such a good question. I really don't have an answer, but just hope that it's going to be different, and being grateful that my mom, when she lost so many of her friends, my mom wasn't affected. And maybe the hope that we could conquer it, just being grateful that I was lucky and most of the people I know were lucky. And I've seen some really incredible, just developing just all the manufacturing and the ideas, and everybody just coming up with super fabulous stuff during this time, and everybody making things work to a certain extent, at keeping life going, and just being grateful. And it makes you think about how good we had it.
Amen. Ain't that the truth?
There you go.
God,
and now you guys, I've got two great friends now. Yeah. So
this is it.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is great. Like, this is why we love doing this, meeting people all around the world.
Education.
We've had guests from Malaysia. We had a guest from Hawaii.
Yeah.
We've gone all around.
Check out the rest of the episodes. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll just keep, praying or being confident or whatever your spiritual bent is, and just using our ingenuity and make it happen, and just hope for a better day.
There you go.
There we go.
Christine Burke, ladies and gents, thank you so much for coming on. Honestly,
thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, I hope to see you guys soon.
Yeah, take care. Look after yourself.
Okay, thank you. You too. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what a podcast, ladies and gents. Christine Burke, former police officer, now a private investigator. I bet she has some incredible stories.
100%. I'd love to sit down with her again and just dive in a little bit deeper.
I don't know how much is private confidential, but there you go. Number 25, man. Number 25.
There we go, guys.
Fantastic podcast.
Thank you for watching the podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, leave a comment. If you want to come on the podcast, hit me or Josh up. I pointed at you when I said me. Hit me or Josh up. If you're watching on Twitch, thank you for watching the podcast. Do whatever you need to do on Twitch to whatever Twitch is.
Yeah.
And there you go. Stay safe, guys.
See you over the weekend. Have a good week, guys. Big love.